This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Support for this podcast comes from Manscaped, who is the best in the business of men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. We're coming close to Christmas, guys. Our jingle bells are starting to jangle. Any of you single guys at your office Christmas party and you see the woman of your dreams across the floor, but you're too down in confidence and you're not sure about your tinsel down below to go and ask her out? Well, that's why Manscaped has designed the electric trimmer. The Lawnmower 2.0 is proprietary skin-safe technology, so this trimmer won't nick or snag your baubles. Manscaping accents are finally a thing of the past. You wouldn't use the same trimmer on your face as you would maybe down there, because that's just nasty. And also, Manscaped has provided us with the Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing deodorant and moisturizer. You already put deodorant on your armpits, so why not put it down there too? Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BIGHEADS at manscaped.com. Always use the right tools for the job, and you know what? Your baubles will thank you. So once again, get 20% off and free shipping when you use the code BIGHEADS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the code BIGHEADS. Dogpound Nation, and welcome to the Two Green Browns podcast with your host Neil Dunworth. And as always, we are part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Please check them out for any podcast that you probably don't even know yet, any genre of podcast, should I say, that you feel that you may be interested in. There's probably something there that will tickle your fancy. Any English Premier League soccer fans out there, there's an Aston Villa podcast that you may hear somebody that is very, very familiar to you on it, i.e. yours truly, that would may make an appearance there. But any other type of podcast for any other genre, also they will cater to your needs there. So today we've got a pretty packed podcast. Unfortunately, John couldn't join us today, but he will be back very, very soon. So today I am joined once again by Mark from One Super Bowl Drive to discuss the Arizona Cardinals, and that's coming up later on. But firstly, I just want to give a quick little review of what we did last week. Some of you guys may know we went to London to the first ever European Browns backers meetup with the wonderful Paul Brown. Thanks so much to Paul, and the even more wonderful Kelly Burgess-Taylor, who is the head of the British Browns backers. And we met up with Paul and Kelly, and they put on such an unbelievable show. It was brilliant from minute one to oh God, I'm not even sure I remember leaving the casino that we were in where the game was shown, but it was absolutely fantastic. London was unbelievable for anybody who hasn't been there. If we've got a lot of fans here listening in the US, I implore you to get over to London. Now maybe it might not be the best time to go, because I just saw that the pound and the dollar, that the pound has absolutely skyrocketed to the dollar after recent election outcomes in the UK. But once it stabilizes down, you guys got to get yourself over there. There's something for everybody to do. If anybody's looking for any recommendations for where to stay or things to go to see, either hit myself up or John, or even just go straight to the source and hit up Paul Brown as well. I'm sure that we'll be able to give you some tips and tricks on what to do. So we went over, both myself and John went over on Saturday, and it was an early start on Saturday morning for us. We flew into Stansted Airport and we got in, and the weather, guys, was absolutely unbelievable. It was such a lovely, crisp winter's morning. And you know me, I love my weather. John often tells me, gives out to me for doing the weather forecast, but I couldn't have imagined a more perfect kind of early autumnal, maybe even early winter's day. It was just such a lovely, the temperature was fabulous. You could have gone out without a jacket, and in fact John lost his jacket. I'd say he was off the plane about 5 minutes and he had lost his jacket, but he struggled on regardless, and we ended up in Camden Town. And for anybody who visits London, it's a must go to is Camden Town. Some of the best pubs, some of the best You know, the best kind of that London has to offer is there. There's a really good Camden Market, and you can get lost in there forever. And we went to the Camden Market, and basically we more or less stayed around Camden on all day Saturday, and then Sunday was the day that we met up, and we met up with some wonderful people. We met up with the guys from Switzerland, with Stefan and Trisha, from the Switzerland Browns backers, and we also met up with Sean as well, one of the other Switzerland guys from the Switzerland Browns backers. The Stefan and Trisha were from near Zurich, and Sean was from near Lugano, which is on the Italian side, which the other two guys always reminded him of, which was funny. We also met up with Tim from Germany. We met up with, who else was there? Oh my God, I hope I don't forget anybody. Met up with Mo from Wales. We met up with Sam and Danny, who were two Ohioans. They were living in London at that time, and we met up with Kirsten and her husband, who I'm so sorry, his name is completely escaping me at the moment. Kirsten is originally from Ireland as well, so another part of the Irish Browns backers, from Monaghan, and her partner was from Liverpool as well, and it was absolutely fantastic. There was tons and tons of other people. I met John from who's actually an employee of the Cleveland Clinic. He was a wonderful guy from the States. Met up with tons and tons and tons of people. I'm so sorry that I've forgotten some of your guys' names, but I do apologise. But it was a lot of it was alcohol fueled, and I'm not really good with names at the best of times, so I do apologise. But I do want to say that each and every one of you that we came in contact with, you all had such an effervescent love for the Browns. And it was really refreshing to be able to sit down and to chat with you guys, and to make acquaintances with you. And I'm sure that our acquaintances will stay strong well into the future. And it was sprung upon me, but I was most delighted to be able to accept it, that Paul has nominated Galway here in Ireland as being the European Browns backers meetup location for 2020, which I'm absolutely delighted about. And efforts are on the way already with Ed from the Galway Browns backers to get our asses in gear and start planning as we speak. And we are really looking forward to it. As I say, it was so good to meet everybody from all those different countries. And as I say, I'm so sorry that I've forgotten. And I'm going to kick myself, because as soon as I post this, I know I'm going to remember like 12 or 15 other names that I was speaking to at the weekend. But I do apologise to everybody. But we're here to make Galway 2020 even bigger and better. And planning is starting now, and we're really, really excited to be able to invite the population of Europe to Galway, to our small little city here in the west of Ireland, to Galway, to watch a game and to discuss how we can build the Browns as a force within Europe and make the Browns Europe's team. So just a small piece, as I say, on Kelly. The organisation that Kelly did for this was absolutely fantastic. There was lots of things that went on. We had a lovely pub lunch, which is a British staple. It was fantastic to have that, everybody together, and we all sat down and we Simone and Torsten, they're two people as well from Germany. I knew I forgot two more people, and as I say, these names are going to keep on coming back to me, so I do apologise for anybody that I missed. But Kelly had organised a pub lunch, as I say, is a quintessential British gathering, and it was fantastic. Really lovely meal in the Crown pub in Soho, Brewer Street in Soho. It was really good, really relaxed to sit down and speak to everybody, and to get everybody's kind of story as to why they're a Browns fan and what really drew them to the Browns and why they've travelled all the way to London for the love of the Browns. And that was so refreshing to hear, and it was superb to see. And after that, then we made our way to the Admiralty, which is the pub where the Cleveland Browns had their pre-game kind of meetup for all Browns fans in Britain when they were there in London in 2017. and it was really cool because we saw pictures of Jim Brown putting pints behind the bar. We saw pictures of the players. The place was packed full of Browns fans, and it was really, really cool. Once again, got to sit down, got to chat to people, got to speak to everybody about, their own experiences about the Browns. And then we went on to the Hippodrome, where we were greeted by 20, 30 more people from London who were there, and we got to mingle, and the place was packed, and it was fantastic. And as I say, Kelly put on a superb show. There was raffles for a sign. There was a sign there in a Spiner book. There was a signed Joe Batonio football. There was tons and tons of prizes. Needless to say, I didn't win any, and all of the money from the raffle was going to the Cleveland Clinic and to help the Cleveland Clinic set up within London as well, which is something that they are going to do in 2020 and into 2021. So all in all, it was a fantastic occasion. It was real, as I say, it really kind of... Let's just say that maybe the some of the glass had been off or some of the bloom was off the rose with the Cleveland Browns for a lot of fans. You could tell on Twitter. And for me, while I'd say I was still very much 100% in support of it, it was kind of a looking forward to see what might happen in the next few weeks. But meeting all these fans and seeing everybody's passion for the Browns really invigorated me, not only for this podcast, but also for my fandom towards the end of the season and into hoping for what next year brings. The Browns are strong in Europe, and we will continue to be strong in Europe, and I'm just so delighted to meet everybody. So thank you so much to Paul, and thank you so much to Kelly for your fantastic event that you held last weekend. I do really appreciate it. So, without further ado, as I say, this is an Arizona preview podcast. So I have Mark from One Super Bowl Drive who's going to be coming to chat to me after this small break, and Mark is going to give his view of being a lifelong fan of the Arizona Cardinals, and we're going to talk it through very, very loosely, but we do kind of break each other's balls apart in it, but he's very, very knowledgeable, and he does know his stuff, and I'm absolutely delighted to chat to him and to get his opinion. So we're just going to take a little break for one of the great podcasts here from Big Heads Media Podcast Network, and afterwards I'll be back with Mark from One Super Bowl Drive. So talk to you in 2 minutes. Hi guys, Neil from For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast, an Irish podcast on the world's most beautifully named team, Aston Villa. Named after God himself, Paul McGrath, we hope to give you unbiased commentary on the biggest team in England's second city. Catch us for game previews, game reviews and conversations with Villa fans from all around the world. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and basically anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. Please give us a follow on Twitter, @MacForTheLoveOf. Find us on Facebook, and also find us on Instagram for more good content. And remember, up the Villa! So guys, as I mentioned, I have Mark from One Super Bowl Drive. He's back again. I told you they were coming back. Mark is back again, and he is, as you guys will know, he's a massive Cardinals fan and been supporting them for years and years and years. And I said it'd be great to have him back on, a familiar voice to discuss this weekend's game against the Cardinals in Arizona, and maybe see how he feels about the matchup that the Browns and the Cardinals are going to bring against each other in the coming weeks. So Mark, how are you doing? Long time no hear.
Yeah, that's it. And like you said there, I'm a fan for years and years and years. The way that's going at the moment, I don't think I'll be another fan for years and years and years. It's been shocking, really. But this season wasn't going to be ever won and lost on the win-loss record. It was always about the development of both Kingsbury's relationship with Kyler Murray and then the offense as a whole expanding. He's definitely hit the nail on the head with those elements. Like, this 3-win season is so much different from last year because they've definitely remained competitive in games. Like, they drove the 49ers so close to the line. They had a good game for 2 quarters against the Saints. Like, they were playing very well, but then the national media doesn't really pick up on how close they were pushing teams. Mm-hmm. But in the last couple of weeks, it's really dropped off. In terms of the Browns, this is one that Cardinals fans would be looking at as the last potential win of the year. So, last year, I know they have the draw now this year, but on their record, but if they're going to get above 3 wins, it's going to have to be against the Browns. because they're the easiest team left. They're the Rams and the Seahawks after that, and the Rams just had a number on them. And then the Seahawks playing so well will obviously be extremely competitive. And the Rams trying to get into the playoffs. That if there's any team that they're going to do it, it's going to be the Browns at home. Now, for different reasons, I don't see them beating the Browns this year or this week, just because they're just poor, like shocking form is the only way to say it. Like they've just fallen off a cliff. I'm looking at it, and
nice pun.
The first time, yeah, right. So, my apologies. This time last year, I wanted to see a win just because it was embarrassing how like they were just getting slaughtered. Right now, I don't want to see a win because I'm like, look, I've seen what I needed to see. A bit like the Ravens last year, the taste in their mouth or taste in everyone's mouth was, oh, they were so bad in the playoffs. Then they took the league by surprise. So I'm kind of like, yeah, let everyone kind of sit on the Cardinals, and then they can come out next year when they've added a couple of more creases to the offense and protect that draft position. Because with the Dolphins and even the Redskins looking slightly more competitive recently, you're looking potentially at a top 3 pick. Now, when there's quarterbacks, when people are drafting for quarterbacks and a trade ahead could potentially happen, having the number 3 pick would mean you're getting someone like Chase Young. So that's just me as a fan, and that's what I'm attributing some of the form to. That one, players have written off the year, and 2, the play calling might be so aggressive because Cliff is like, look, I know that I've proven myself to the real fans and to the GM and stuff. We know what we're doing now. Let's take a little bit of a sit back, not protect because they're never going to admit protect, but he's going to be less aggressive with his play calling. Yeah. And it's certainly been shown up in Kyler Murray's play at the moment. It's just like last week he had a surefire touchdown against the Steelers, and all he had to do was run it, and he was loving running for the first few weeks. And I think it's Kyler protects yourself. He throws the ball, and it's an interception from inside the red.
I remember that
inside the red zone. So it's kind of like I don't mind it because I've seen what I needed to see. But in terms of just face value, who I think wins the game, I think it is the Browns, because the Browns have to win because they're under pressure to win, whereas everyone's kind of writing off the Cardinals. So it's like they can lose and everyone only thinks it's a loss. But it seems to be getting worse and worse for the Browns if they have a loss, especially with this whole Odell Beckham talk.
Yeah, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I think the paper doesn't refuse ink with the Odell Beckham shite. The Jake Glazer accountant said he's been speaking to people, and this is something that I haven't really spoken about at all, really. That they said, yeah, he was speaking to people, but that was in early October, when this was supposed to have happened. They said, "Come get me." The team was losing at that stage. He was injured. He was talking about his groin. He was actually supposed to be in the same game that he tweeted beforehand and said, "Please God, let my groin hold up for this game." So like there could have been numerous different things. Odell Beckham hasn't said it. I don't know what's going on there. He isn't going anywhere this offseason. He won't be traded. Dorsey can't afford to admit a mistake there. And secondly, we'll get fuck all back from him. So it absolutely makes no sense for us to trade him this offseason. So that's a kind of, that's just something to kind of fill column inches, I think, at the moment. Yeah. And considering that Beckham has come out and said there's nowhere else he'd rather be, playing with Jarvis Landry, it's now it's a thing of nothing at the moment until it actually becomes a thing of something, until he actually says it himself. But going back to the game, yeah, I kind of do agree with you that the Cardinals themselves are, their form has gone completely out the window. It's nowhere to be seen anymore. And Kyler Murray does look like he's protecting himself. He does look like maybe the rigors, I'm not going to say the rigors of the NFL have caught up with him, but whether he's been directed not to run and to look after himself, maybe if Cliff Kingsbury said, right, we've got three or four wins for the season, that's all we aimed for because we need to get those picks. Who's to say that you guys won't go and pick another quarterback this year? You guys have formed for it. Just get rid of top 10 quarterbacks.
Take them off the board and trade them for that's what I tried to do on my fantasy football. I took 2 quarterbacks early just so I can trade them away.
Yeah, trade them for second round picks. Isn't that your? That's not your
right,
do, isn't it?
And for wide receiver, pick wide receivers with those second round picks that don't seem to make the impact that everyone believes that they're going to do. As far as Kyler Murray goes, I think so. His thing coming into it was he was successful throughout high school. He was successful throughout college. That he wasn't used to winning. and he was I was a sour pup after losing the first couple of times. Like, he just was a bad loser. But the 2 weeks ago, after they get hockeyed by the Rams, he did his best press conference afterwards, because he seems to be getting used to, like, we don't always win. It is a team sport. It's not completely on me, and it's going to happen. So I'd like to see that maturity and that development from him, because I was very critical of him because of his maturity issues, I thought. And, like, I mean, that's fine. He's younger than I am. Like, and then he's thrust into this role. But I just thought he was a bit sour and stuff. But then he comes out and he shows after the Rams they get hockey. Then he's like, that's the NFL. Now, against the Steelers again this week, because it probably was on him a bit more, because he threw the interceptions. Like, where these interceptions have come from, I don't know, because he was always playing from behind, and all of a sudden, now on the box score is going to show up that he had 3 interceptions. I mean, one of them was, the game was still there to be won when they have a minute and 43 seconds left to go against the Steelers this week. And they could have won the game, but that's again where signs show to me that a play call that, if you had to win that game, you were probably going to have a better play. But again, you don't want to be too aggressive, because at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything. It's like, obviously tape is going to be watched and etc. I know the offense will develop in the off season, but you don't really need to win that game. So I think that it was the 2 earlier interceptions. I mean, one was from the 21-yard line, so let's call the 2 of them within the end zone, or within the red zone. Sorry, that it's just a bit annoying to see now that he is having these mistakes, because he just was so good at protecting the ball for whatever string of games it was. Maybe it was 7 without an interception. Then he set that rookie record. That it was really encouraging, and that's the period of the season where I'm going to think back on. And it's kind of like you guys last year. You had a great last 8. Well, there was that in the middle that showed. It was that spell after the first 4 weeks where everyone had kind of come up to speed with the offense, but before the season was completely over. Now that the season's over, they've kind of just regressed into everyone's phoning it in to some extent. Bringing it back to the game, I suppose, what I'm going to look out for is there's still certain elements. I mean, at the end of the day, if Kyler Murray's form is bad, there's still certain elements in this game that I want to look out for. When we first spoke about whatever the Browns in the off season, I came in and I talked about Steve Wilkes, and I had this one definitely circled, because Cardinals fans will want to beat the Browns this week with the run / stop their run. Now, they're not equipped to do that. I mean, they're the 15th ranked against the run defense, whereas then you're going to be going up against Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, which is looking fantastic. But it's really, you want to beat Steve Wilkes. And this game, to a certain level, is Kenyon Drake is after going in for David Johnson. I would love to see David Johnson get back on the field this week. I think that it's obviously he's fallen out of favour with Cliff Kingsbury. That's one thing that has annoyed me with the general manager, Steve Keim, is kind of saying, I'm leaving up to Cliff Kingsbury. We'll talk in the off-season about the future of David Johnson. But, like, when you have a stellar running back like that, like, it goes to show what, like, how a running back can thrive off a system. But there was so many years there where the Cardinals were, like, desperate to find a running back. Like, they had to take a punt on Chris Johnson and a punt on Adrian Peterson. And while they worked out for single seasons, there was no one long-term. And while Kenyon Drake came in and he had a great debut for the Cardinals against the 49ers on Thursday night, he hasn't looked the same. David Johnson, I don't think, is being put in a position right now to win anyway. He's not being given the ball in space where he can beat guys one-on-one. They don't seem to want him as a pass catcher out of the backfield or even from the slot, which is the first thing when I saw Kenyon Drake was going in there. I was thinking, oh, great, like, this is what fans have wanted for so long. When they heard that Cliff Kingsbury was coming in and apparently the run game was going to disappear, it was, David Johnson's going to get those catches now. He's going to scheme up some really interesting things. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. It seems that there's a bit of animosity there, and not on a personal level, but just as a professional level, that Cliff Kingsbury doesn't want David Johnson, and it's a huge shame, and that's just annoying. But as far as going into this game, there'll obviously be some components of the team there that still knows how Steve Wilkes wants to defend against the run. I think even Steve Keim, again, going up to the general manager, will want to say thanks to Steve Wilkes for a shocker of a year, a stinker of a year last year. So I think this game is going to be won on the ground, because when you flip it to the other side, do you know how Odell Beckham plays a bit better when there's a bit of an aggressiveness? Now he's going to be linking up with Patrick Peterson, obviously they're LSU links. And if Odell Beckham, like we're talking about there is rumors or whatever happening, I don't think this is going to be the game that, you know, puts them to bed, because Patrick Peterson is just going to travel with Odell Beckham. Now it'll open up obviously other areas of the field, but I think Byron Murphy, the rookie cornerback, has been doing pretty well. I mean, he
Really?
definitely gave up. I think he's been all right. Like, he's, as far as a rookie goes, he's way better than I thought. Like, they've been confident enough now that obviously at safety they let DJ Swearinger go, who is bouncing around the league a bit. They let Tremaine Brock go. Obviously, like, you weren't supposed to have Byron Murphy playing for as long as he was. To have him playing at a competent level was all that I wanted, and I think he's doing that. Like, he hasn't been. Like,
PFF seemed to think completely the opposite. That was one of the players I was going to bring up that I thought that the Browns could absolutely victimize in this game. Is that, you know, Byron Murphy?
You can't victimize them because they have Buda Baker playing an aggressive safety role. That it's like,
he's been good. He's been
like,
your best. He's been your
no,
best.
he has. He's been fantastic, and it's like Byron Murphy. Like, he doesn't have to step up and completely shut down Jarvis Landry because he's going to be getting help off Buda Baker. Like, I'm huge into PFF and I do follow along with them, but as far as Byron Murphy goes, I'm talking about long term. I'm happy with what I've seen with him. Like, he was never supposed to be the number 2 guy except for injury, and like they're obviously they're able to let guys go now because they're like, you know what, he's where he needs to be. He's not supposed to be Patrick Peterson yet. That
and to be honest with you,
the one thing that could hamper them is, I know Buda Baker's not a tall guy. They've been struggling against the tight end, and the tight end comes up every single week. And now with Njoku back, they're going to have to put some more bodies against the tight end and even the running game, you know, moving up the level. So he will be open there, Byron Murphy, so that Jarvis Landry or whoever can get by. As far as, like, the Cardinals are the worst passing game at the moment. The passing defense, that is.
Yeah,
so there's definitely holes, but like the tight ends dominating the Cardinals also inflates the figures because, like, they're so bad against the tight end that it's just, you're just going to be going to Njoku the whole time, you would imagine. I mean, we have the betting preview there if anyone wants to listen to it, and I've tipped David Njoku to get a touchdown in it. So yeah, I mean, that's the area of the field. You're going to be looking at Nick Chubb and the run game, and then David Njoku. That I think that Odell would be removed from it to a certain level. I think Jarvis Landry might have as much success as you think that he might have.
Yeah, I myself, look, I think the way this game is going to go on Sunday is that I think both teams will just be glad it's over. I think when it's over, it's like the media are trying to make a lot of narratives. I know I've read a couple of articles that, you know, it's Baker versus Kingsbury, and Baker's come out today and said, listen, he did something stupid at 18. Kingsbury's come out and said, listen, he could have handled it better. And, you know, these things are water under the bridge. You know, I think it's taking time for Baker to mature from that point of view, that not every kind of chip on your shoulder has to last forever. Also, they've, like, Kyler Murray has had a bit of a laugh and a joke about Baker Mayfield this week, saying that you know, he wouldn't have done some of the stuff he's done, but they just let Baker do all that stuff so they can laugh at him. And, you know, it's childish. When I say childish, it's playfulness, should I say, more so than childish, should I say. It's not ill mannered, I don't think, or it's ill tempered.
They come from the same college at the end of the day. Like, they're obviously, I know the two of them will be very competitive, and I'm sure that they want each other's snaps. Exactly, but at the end of the day, yeah, they were both successful with the same team. And just as we mentioned, the LSU links there with Landry, OBJ, and Patrick Peterson, it's like those things go pretty deep. Those kind of college connections that you have. I know at the quarterback positions is a bit different because someone's after beating you out for a starting role. But as far as it goes, like, yeah, I mean, the storyline would have been intensified had these teams been doing well. Obviously, I think that it was supposed to be the Browns are playing phenomenally. The Cardinals now have a chance against their old head coach and even Freddie Kitchens. I mean, there's no ill will, but Freddie Kitchens, it would have been built as he was not shunned, but he was never given the opportunity in Arizona. Whereas now it's all kind of died down because you've kind of two middle of the road and then one bottom of the heap teams playing each other, that you don't need to make narratives because people aren't going to be paying attention to the game. You're not going to have it featured 24/7 on NFL Network. So I think people had these storylines ready to go. I think even for the players, there's been such turnover between last year's kind of team and this. One guy that I would kind of look towards is Hassan Reddick, who was he was a linebacker, but he was an inside linebacker. He's after been put on the outside now. He was dropped last year under Steve Wilkes. He hasn't kind of regained his form from his first year, second year.
One of the worst defenders graded on PFF for the whole year so far this year. Yeah. So
no, but that's exactly it. So he wasn't able to find his footing in Steve Wilkes' defense or this year under Vance Joseph. So they've pushed him to the outside, partly because while Chandler Jones is ferocious off the edge, Terrell Suggs is definitely phoning it in at this point. I mean, he had a great strip sack on the Steelers this week, but they've pushed Hassan Reddick out towards the side. So I'm kind of thinking if there's one player that he got dropped last year by this defensive coordinator, he's going to want to show off in front of Steve Wilkes and maybe get a couple of sacks. But it's not like he's playing fantastic there. Like, it was a fine move last week for the Steelers. Like you said, Pro Football Focus had him graded poorly because, like, I suppose Jordan Hicks was playing okay there in the middle. Like, he wasn't even playing okay. He was like, anything that came his way, he would. Like, he is one of the most tackles in the league. He was letting every ball be caught, but then he was just jumping on the man because his coverage was pretty tight. But Hassan Reddick kind of just benefited from nothing, that he was always the odd man out, and that doesn't help you in grading. And then he was just in a position where, like, he couldn't really help himself, whereas he was working a hybrid role when Deion Buchanan was with them under James Betcher a couple of years ago, that they had been good. And again, it's kind of like a running back position. When guys are in a scheme that can make them succeed, they're good. But then I'm looking at Marcus Golden, who was with the Cardinals last year and then played really well at the start of Monday Night Football, just gone against the Eagles when he was getting pressure in the first half against Carson Wentz. And I think he's 8.5 sacks this year. And he was a guy that I really didn't want them to let go. They knew how good he was, but then he went off and got like a 1 year $4 million deal. And I was like, how do you let a guy go at that price? And they were kind of thinking, oh, it's because we went and got Terrell Suggs and I mean, that's another story, but I'm just hoping that Hassan Reddick doesn't become that next player. And if he's not to become that next player that's going to let go after the year, it's going to be because he has to step up in a game like this, maybe against the Seahawks next week, but it'll be more difficult to get to Russell Wilson. But this one against Baker Mayfield gives an opportunity, especially because there's going to be that chip on the shoulder.
Exactly. So I think really this weekend's game is it's going to be a battle of whose defense can break less. No, actually, I actually think that I think Steve Wilkes has been doing a great job for the Browns this year. We do leave, like against the Bengals last week, we gave up, I think it was over 400 yards to Andy Dalton, but it was very much a kind of a let's give them this buffer zone. Our defense is very much gaffer taped together from the point of view of, our safety room. Sheldrick Redwine has been brought in. He's excelled. He was actually one of the better safeties in the whole league last week, should I say. The rest of our defensive back room, with regards to Burris, we've got Randall. It's probably only about 50% interested in playing games. I don't think he's coming back next year. We've got a banged up Greedy Williams who's been poor for the last couple of games, and we've got Denzel Ward.
Well, I was going to say, having watched the Bengals game the other day, and then this like pick for pick in the first quarter, I actually have Denzel Ward probably having a good game, because like I know he had that pick six brilliant the other day. Yeah, he looked fantastic, and when you have Kyler Murray like so erratic at the moment, that I was actually thinking that, like again, the whole Demarius Randall story is so like, I don't know what happened there, like it doesn't make sense that he just kind of like doesn't want to play anymore. Or he certainly has lost interest, as he said. But I was kind of thinking that because Kyler Murray is kind of taking these shots, and he's just, like I said, his erratic play kind of opens the door for Denzel Ward to perhaps have another one, to have another pick six, just because Kyler Murray, like, he's been lucky not to throw some pick six lately.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you listen to the well, actually, I don't think I put it in the betting podcast from last week. But when I was doing my preview with John, I said I had a feeling that there was going to be the pick six. It would be the first one in 2.5 years for the Browns, and yeah, so I'm feeling
It's
number
going to
one.
be three. Do you know, it's these things, you know, when it rains, it pours. Like the Cardinals hadn't gotten an interception for whatever it was. It was 6 weeks without one. Patrick Peterson's first game back after the suspension, he had one in the seventh. And I think in game 7 and 8 and 10, they had an interception because I thought they were going to be even worse than the 49ers last year. The 49ers only had 2 interceptions, and then I was thinking the Cardinals weren't. And then they probably had 6 in the space of 5 weeks. So I was thinking, yeah, I just think that Denzel Ward has one there now, and it could happen again. I don't I don't know how the Browns are feeling about the rest of their schedule, but this is kind of one of those games that again it's there for the taking, especially on the road. It always helps your
Yeah,
record look a bit better when you can win on the road. That it's probably one that he'll want to step up in.
exactly, and it's a strange one. The Browns could potentially go of 5-2 to or sorry, even 6-2, finish out their year. They went 2-6. They could finish out the year 6-2, finish 8-8, and people could be talking about Freddie Kitchens being on the hot seat. And look, it's probably a lot of it is down to the fact that there is kind of always a lot of side issues, as you mentioned, with Odell Beckham and maybe Baker saying things he shouldn't say and stuff like that. That to me, it's very much more the coverage of Browns is more TMZ than it is NFL at the moment. And look, that's something I suppose that the front office need to look at. But I think in this game, I think that like we've obviously lost Miles Garrett. If we have Miles Garrett in this game, I think it's a blowout. Unfortunately, I would think that this would be something that that the Browns would win easily. Just the way that the two teams are going, I think they would be putting up way more points than teams like the Bengals. They would have beaten the Steelers the second time around. But Miles Garrett, pass rush is a big issue. We do have a kind of a rotational DNs at the moment in Port Augustin, who's actually came in and has been playing pretty well. He's been playing very, very well in the 3 games he's been there. He's had quite a lot of hurries, and he's had his sack and so on. And same with Brian Cox Jr. Brian Cox has been grading okay, averagely enough, I would say, but he's been doing better than we thought he would. And then like there are 2 rotational defensive ends, and then we've got Chad Thomas, who's been pretty decent in well, when I say pretty decent, he's gotten 4 sacks, but a lot of them are cleanup stuff. But look, he's been doing his job. He's been doing what needs to be done. He's got a couple of tackles. He's just not grading out very, very well. But look, it's just one of those things. And then you look at Sheldon Richardson, who realistically could end the year as one of the top 3 defensive tackles in the league. So could you imagine Miles Garrett was on pace to be one of the top 2 defensive ends in the league? Then we could have had Sheldon Richardson. The team were playing themselves into form. Biggest problem with our defense is we've not had enough consistency and not had enough I suppose there's not been as many times when we could have our top 11 on the field at any given time. And I think that's going to probably show against the Cardinals when we give up a couple of scores. But I do think that the offense will kick into gear, and I think that it is what it is over the course of the whole year. It's been poor at defending the passing game, and I just think that we probably will have enough with our backs out of the backfield, even 70% fit Odell, Jarvis Landry, and Njoku coming back. I just think we might have enough to beat the Cardinals. I'm not confident, as in I'm not saying this is going to be a gimme just because we've got no pass rush. But I think it'd be a decent game. I'm not looking for any fireworks or anything, but I just think that both teams will just be, I think both sets of fans will be kind of just glad it's over, I think, afterwards. If that makes sense.
No, I think it makes sense. I wouldn't say as a Cardinals fan you want it to be over, because when you have this Seahawks and Rams coming up, this is the last time I can sit down for another 10 months or 8 months that I can actually enjoy a Cardinals game, because I think it'll be a blowout after that. I know, like, it breaks my heart that the Cardinals were the ones that let Sean McVay open up his playbook again, seeing as it was closed all year. But yeah, I mean, I am looking forward to this game. I wish that there was more on the line, i.e. that the Cardinals were going to be competitive because the Browns were trying to get into the playoffs. but it is what it is. I suppose that it'll just be a fun game to watch. I do think that the two defenses, it depends on who can hold up the most, because two defensive back units that definitely are going to give up some plays, especially against the weapons that they have. I think that the ground game should be really interesting to watch with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, because you're talking there about you're not able to get all your 11 players on defense, but this is what it should have looked like on offense for your kind of your playmakers there, your star players, because obviously Kareem Hunt had this suspension. Then when he was back and Joku was gone, and I know Joku was back last week, and like it's all kind of fitting into place too far into the season. But it's definitely, as far as something to watch goes, it'll be fun, especially when Vance Joseph just can't protect against the ball. Yeah. And then as far as the Cardinals go, it's they'll want to show a bit more than they have the last couple of weeks, just because they seem to be still wanting to remain competitive versus last year. Everyone was probably like booking their summer holidays and stuff like that. That it's just a nice game to watch for once, without the pressure of what if and all these kind of scenarios. That I definitely see it going in the Browns' way, especially because like the Steelers were there for the taking last week and the Cardinals couldn't get it done. And then they're obviously on Duck Hodges, that like Baker Mayfield should be a bit more competent. And like I didn't think Duck Hodges was good last week. It was all about Deontay Johnson, like obviously the run back, but then out of nowhere he's catching those touchdowns. He's coming up in clutch spots. Like it was whatever it was. Duck Hodges was 7 for 7 on third down with whatever it was just towards the end of the game. Cardinals having 3rd and 7. This is basically to ice it. This is just before they got the touchdown, just under 2 minutes. And again, a great catch by your man Deontay Johnson. That they were there for taking the Steelers, whereas I don't think the Browns are going to leave themselves open like that. Especially like again, Freddie Kitchens back in Arizona. He's going to and he knows obviously he's under pressure. It's a bit like it's kind of the flip of Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's just playing because weight has been lifted, whereas Freddie Kitchens knows the pressure is on his shoulder, but he can have it lifted if he can put up a performance against a team like the Cardinals. Exactly. Especially those storylines help him as well. Like, because people are just discussing all those different things. So he can come away from this and say, oh yeah, we were able to push all that away. We were able to show a bit of leadership, because obviously the leadership issue is the real thing with the Browns at the moment. When you were talking about Odell Beckham there earlier on in a bit more detail, I was kind of thinking back in the whole him wearing the shoes and everyone's complaining, saying, if they had a real leader in the locker room, he wouldn't have left the locker room with those cleats on himself and Jarvis Landry. That a win here is important because it can help Freddie Kitchens' job security and all that.
Yeah, I'm sick of I'm sick of people saying that wearing t-shirts are the reason that people lose games and people wearing cleats are the reasons that lose games. The NFL have kind of proven themselves, and without getting into it too much, the NFL have proven themselves. They've allowed other players wear watches. They've allowed other players wear cleats that weren't the correct ones. They've allowed other players to wear trousers above their knees and not find them this year, but they find Odell and stuff like that. So look, it's always going to be an ongoing battle with Odell. The league, I genuinely believe that there is some animosity somewhere. He's pissed somebody off within the league. But look, that is that's a podcast for another day. Mark,
was James Jones allowed to wear that tight end, or was he a wide receiver? James Jones, was he allowed to wear that green jumper underneath his Packers gear?
Yeah. No, I don't think
it always looks so ugly. I was like, how can the NFL allow a player to
you wear a hoodie?
Their slick looking uniforms look so baggy with a hoodie underneath it.
Yeah,
that was a finable. They should have told him to go and change that.
Exactly. His wife should have told him, or his girlfriend should have told him, listen, it looks stupid. Stop wearing it and stop being a pussy and just get out there and run faster. That'll make you warm. Although I here's me from my ivory tower and not knowing what the wind chill factor is like in Green Bay as well, so I can't really throw stones there. Well, listen, Mark, thanks so much for coming on to have a chat about the Cardinals. This, as I say, may the best team win at the weekend. I'm kind of
may the Cleveland Browns win. We need draft position and draft capital, so may the Cleveland Browns win, please.
Absolutely. No, that's fine. We gladly take your win, because there are some games coming up this weekend that
do what you want with an 8-8 record. Yeah. doesn't
Exactly.
bother me. I mean, what does it mean at the end of the day?
Yeah,
Look
well,
at that. Look at what that stretch did to you last year. You went into this year and it was all prime time games and set you up. You can have it. I don't want it.
yeah, well, we're going to beat the Ravens as well, and we're going to go 9-7 because we're the only team that have the Ravens number. So you heard it here first. But listen, yeah, thanks so much. We're going to have you, as I say, we'll have you on next week to preview the Ravens game in the betting podcast. But I think I've already blown my cover as to what I'm going to be backing in that game, and it's going to be a big fat L for the Ravens because we're going to the playoffs, baby. Provided we can get over this game first. But listen, Mark, thanks so much again. For everybody, catch the guys on One Super Bowl Drive on Twitter. They put out a lot of good stuff there, power rankings and so on. And coming close to the Super Bowl season playoffs, I know that Enda has mentioned before that he likes to get his prop bets in early. So for a little bit of money making, the time of the season when your team may not be in the running for anything decent, it might be worth picking or checking those guys out there as well. So don't forget to give them a follow at One Super Bowl Drive. Don't forget to follow John Cahill at John Cahill _IRL. Don't forget to follow the podcast here at Two Green Browns as well. That's my own handle. I've given up my previous handle. I haven't looked at it in about 6 months. So you can get me on at Two Green Browns. And all that's left to say is go Brownies.